Hey folks, this is David Hale, um, sitting in my little casita this evening, knocking back a few. Um, Thought I'd get on here and share some of my thoughts about all the, the stuff going on. And I don't know, I'm just going to throw my little bit of perspective in on stuff. And I just find humor in all of this. And not that is, it's humorous. We have to laugh, or about a lot of things, or we're going to like pull our hair out. Like well, you can't tell, but I've got a lot of hair missing back here. Just natural, not stress or anything like that necessarily, but excuse me. I would just like to say that the response from the left on this whole thing, and I've watched, of course, many people, I would say, have probably seen a lot of the videos out there. People at the Arizona Capitol, like this one. And mind you, I live in Apache Junction, Arizona. So I live basically down in the valley. So we hear and see everything, like everybody does, like instantly. It doesn't matter where you are now, right? You can hear it instantly. That's the beauty of the interwebs. And that being said, you see the stuff going on now. Why Arizona of all places? Why why Arizona of all places? Why did they attack Arizona? Like that was like out there. They were at the Arizona Capitol. It's funny because Arizona was not the only state, but one of the states that had trigger laws in place, ready to go for when Roe versus Wade may eventually be overturned. So I would like to reach out and just find out, did everybody else in the other states that had these trigger laws already in place, did they experience the same thing at their capitals? The mainstream news might be hiding it. I'm sure we'll find out in the next couple of days. I'm just putting this out there. My video will probably be uploaded and be days old by the, and people will be like, yeah, man, that came out like 2 days before you put out that video. Didn't you see that? And I'd be like, oh shit, sorry, I missed it. I saw about, here, I saw about some other places, this is how information sometimes works, depending on who you're looking at or what you're looking at. I've also heard, I've heard of abortion clinics actually shutting down in different states already. They've already decided they're closing their doors. That's like, wow, really? You guys are just gonna close up shop? Yeah, this is over, man. We had our run for 50 years and now it's over with. And you know what? I say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, patriots. Thank you, the people around the world that support life. It's not just here in the United States. I think people around the world support life. And these these monsters, these devils, these demons that have been and are pushing their agenda onto the world for a millennia now. It's not just recent. It didn't just start, but it's accelerated. I say that, you guys have lost. You guys have lost. This is a clear-cut victory. I think that the 2A decision the other day was a clear victory. I think that's why they tried to rush through the red flag stuff the other day. Oh, we need to get some gun laws passed because we already know the Supreme Court, they're going to come out and say the Second Amendment applies. We keep trying to say it doesn't, but it really does. We know we can't do nothing about it except try to create, chaos in the system, throw a monkey wrench in there, clog it all up, and then in the meantime, people still can't have guns while we're clogging up the system because we already did all this stuff. That's what that's all about, clogging up the system. And then in the interim, being able to do whatever the hell they want to do, including come to your door, say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so, your neighbor, or we've had a report. They're not going to say your neighbor, obviously. They're not going to say, oh, your neighbor over here, because then you'd be like, oh, my neighbor, huh? Guess what, man? I know my neighbor. My neighbor would never do that to me. We're like this, dude. I got his back, he's got mine. We've already talked, so don't come to me with that bullshit. That my neighbor, it's you, motherfucker. You got word based on what I'm putting out here right now about, information that I'm sharing. That's what you got. That's why you're here. It's the only reason you're here, because you're trying to separate people. You're trying to isolate and divide, conquer, and do what you do best. But guess what? You can pull a few from the herd. You can pull a few from the, the group that's like right there, fucking over the target. Yeah, you'll snag a few of us out of there, but you're not going to snag all of us. It's not going to happen. It's not going to work. You can't. You know it can't. You know it can't happen. You don't have the control. You don't have the control that you need. And I'm going to say, as far as this Roe versus Wade thing, it's just funny to me because these people that are out there that for 50 years or whatever been able to say, oh yeah, we could just and 50 years they've been able to just to arbitrarily abort children, and had nothing to do with health reasons, had nothing to do with the health of the mother, had nothing to do with the health of the child. It was just something you were able to do because it was simply inconvenient for your life. Okay? And I've got news for all of you. We are all inconvenienced every day, all the time. But not all of our inconveniences are due to our negligence and irresponsibility. That's a fact. Most of us get up and go to work. We try to take care of our families. We do what we can. And I'm going to tell you right now that all you people out there that have these attitudes, that it's okay to be irresponsible. It's okay to go out and have your fun. And oops, if it results in a pregnancy, that's a minor issue. Let's just get rid of that problem. I think you are irresponsible, and I think you need to probably think about modifying your behavior. Okay? My opinion. You women out there, you women that are out there just parting the Red Sea, yeah, well, let it on in, and then you don't like have any sort of protection for yourself. You don't ask a man if he's got some protection, but you just kind of let things roll, and you wind up pregnant. Guess what? I don't think that gives you the right to terminate a freaking life because you were irresponsible. I think, my opinion, you should be liable to carry that child to term. Okay? You men out there, and I'm going to be harder on the men than I am on the women. The women hold power. Women have, I'm going to say it just like this, women have the power of the ching ching. They have that. Okay? They have that power. Excuse me. They can lure men in. Men, we will oftentimes think with the smaller head before we think with the big head. Especially in the heat of the moment. We've had a couple of cocktails. We'll definitely probably we'll defer to our lower self and say, yeah, man, it's time for you to take over, bro. I lose control. Well, that's okay, man, because you have more control right now than I do. Okay, this is big head talking to the little head. Right? Women, they're taking a man's lead. They are always taking a man's lead. They may try to think the lead in their whole. Now they have control of the situation. Don't get me wrong. Most of the time they have control of the situation. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But between the two of you and the alcohol and the the conversation and the oh this that do you, and I've had girls ask me, do you have a condom? Yeah, I have a condom. Do you want me to wear one? Well, because I can control myself. I'm not gonna and of course now I'm in my 50s, and most of the women honestly I haven't done anything in a while, but if I am, I don't have to worry about the females I'm interacting with getting prego. I just don't. I guess that's one of the benefits of being a little bit older. A lot of women have had hysterectomies already. They can't get pregnant. But I'm saying, if you're in that generation of people that can, excuse me, I'm going to just take off this hat because I think I'm shadowing my head. My hair is, I don't care. I don't give a shit. If you're in that generation that can, you need to start being responsible. Y'all need to start being responsible, because what happens is, and I'm not even saying what happens, what has happened is, look at all the the irresponsible sex and pregnancies that have happened, that have resulted in how many millions and millions of children just being aborted because people didn't want them. Oh no, I'm not going to carry it to term and let somebody adopt that baby, which there's many people that can't have children or do have children but can afford to take on more. Maybe they don't want to go through the the trial of pregnancy again. Maybe it's they had a troubled pregnancy. Maybe they'd rather adopt. There's a lot of people out there, I think, like that, and good people. And I'm not talking about the Peter Woods out there that are out there trying to adopt kids to abuse them, because there's some of that too, and you have to be aware of that shit. There's some freaks out there. That's why I say you have to be very careful and very vigilant, in what you do with your life. It's all about personal responsibility. Personal responsibility is, I think, something that has been lost on this nation as a whole. It's been lost, and I think we need to get it back. And I think one way of getting it back is by stopping this allowance of just arbitrary murder of the unborn. I think that's a start. I think it's a great start. And there's already states that, like I said earlier, that have these things in place already, that were already there if the Supreme Court ever finally said, you know what, this murder was never part of the Constitution. Murdering the unborn was never written into the Constitution, and therefore we're going to leave it up to the states. And I think most of the states, at the end of the day, even the liberal ones, even the ones that are like, yeah, you should be able to murder. You should be, in fact, you should be able to birth them and then put them on the frickin' sacrifice frickin' stump, and frickin' we should all be able to eat their heart. That's the kind of sick bastards you're talking about that want this kind of stuff, that approve of this. You think I'm kidding you? Do you think I'm kidding you for a minute? These frickin' vicious bastards, they would love to take your born child and just frickin' sacrifice it on the altar. They really would. Not the altar of God, the altar of fucking Molech, and I can't get too deep into this, but the fact is, there are people that absolutely have a look at human life like it's really nothing. You are just like us to them. These lizard people, you are just like sacrificing a goat or killing a rabbit. They don't care. Your babies mean nothing to them. They really don't. And the people that are giving birth to these babies mean nothing. They don't mean anything to them. That's why they're so unwilling to do it. So my thing is just this: understand that this was a good win. Understand that we as a people are moving forward as a species. We're starting to understand and get our morality back, and I think that we're getting back to God. We're getting back to God. and that, I think that's a great thing. I think that's, by getting back to God is not is to, separate ourselves from all the evil that is going on around us that we all know. And there's not as many of these evil bastards as there are good people out there that do not want this. Even the ones that are on the fence, even people that are on the fence, they're like, well, I kind of see their point. I kind of see why women should have the right to, no, you don't get it, man. If you're on the fence about it, then you need to jump to one side or the other. Get off the damn fence. The only instance in which I think that it should even be considered or recognized is in the case of incest. And in that case, I think that, a child, unless they were an adult child, and of course, that would be a whole different situation. That's not even something we even need to talk about. But I'm talking about a child, that cannot defend itself, and ends up prey to a family member. And it doesn't even have to be like, direct father or mother, whatever. It could be, uncle, cousin. It could be any of that thing. And it has happened. I mean, yeah, it has happened. So don't think for a minute it has happened, or that it hasn't happened. It has. And the problem with that is that it can lead to a lot of different problems for a child. You're not going to be affected. Well, you will be affected, but a child will be affected. Based on that too close of genetic pool. Being there. And besides that, morally, it's just reprehensible. It's morally reprehensible. The other thing that I would say would be a situation I would be okay with somebody like saying, you know what, and as long as it's early, as soon as pregnancy is determined, it's determined that this crime did happen or this was something that happened, and it's taken care of. Not wait for months and months and months for something to drag out. By that time, and they can't do anything until they determine a person has actually committed that crime. You know what I mean? So that's the other problem with this, is that they can say, oh, no, you can't do this. You can't terminate pregnancy until we determine this person's guilty of a crime. Well, hell, that could take a year and a half. That could take several months. I mean, maybe it could take a week. But I don't think it's fair to the person that's having to bear the burden of that to have to deal with that. I really don't. So in those cases, I would suggest that, you know what, I didn't rape myself, I didn't incest myself. It happened to me, and the result was a pregnancy. Once it's determined, and they can determine DNA right away. I mean, they can as soon as they determine the DNA based on the swabs they can do and the blood tests, it should be just a slam dunk. Yeah, your DNA is in this person. Blah blah blah. They should have a right, based on what we're seeing as preliminary, to be able to abort this thing. They did not cause this. They weren't a willing participant in this situation. So, in that regard, I would say, yeah, I would agree with it. Under other circumstances, under consensual sex of any sort, I would say no. No, absolutely not. You chose to do this, and you chose not to use protection. So, you know what? Guess what? You either choose to raise the child, or you can choose to adopt the child out. Those are your choices. You cannot abort the child. You engaged in consensual sex, which resulted in a pregnancy, and no, you don't get the option just to get out of the conveniency of it. You're going to carry the child to term. That's a given. You're going to carry it to term. That's it. We're going to give you everything that you need, all the tools you need to be able to do that. Even if you're in a bad situation, you're poor, you're not, you don't have the financial resources to. We're going to, as a society, we're going to make sure that you have the resources to bring that child in, because the investment in our future is the children that we can bring into the world. If we can't propagate faster than we're declining, then we as a species are going to not be here. I say that with kind of a grain of salt. I say that in a way that I think humans are always going to be here, but I have different perspectives on that I really, this not what this video is about, not what I'm going to go into. This is simply sort of a thing about what we're seeing right now with the whole abortion issue. And it's funny how the left, they want things held up, and we wanted the Supreme Court. So when you wanted them to vote for this, and if they would have said, oh yeah, we're going to uphold Roe versus Wade, they would have been celebrating and dancing in the street. The fact is they probably would have been burning shit down just to spite everybody that they thought lost the issue. They would have been, we're just going to burn shit down now because we're having fun and we know we can get away with anything we want now. You see, that's the funny thing about that side, is they would have been going crazy. They would have been celebrating, oh yeah, and they would have probably had statuettes out there, little babies burning them on freaking stakes. They would have probably had mock child sacrifices out there to Moloch. They would have probably had, all kinds of horrible, grotesque things out there, demonstrating their power, how evil won over good. They would have done these things. Now they're out there and they're kind of weak. Oh, you can't support life. Death is better. Death is what we like. But, as long as it's somebody else's death and not their own. Again, these people have no soul, as far as I'm concerned. They have no freaking soul. They're vapid, freaking empty suits and empty skirts. And that's an old saying from talk radio show hosts like Michael Savage and those guys. Empty suits, empty skirts. Or nowadays it'd be probably a different phrase because that's so old, and there would be some other thing for it that I'm probably not hip to now. Anyway, my point is they would be celebrating and we would be really upset. But you know what? We would not be out there like doing crazy things like these people are doing. We would be like, okay, how do we address this? How do we get this back to the states? How do you change the Supreme Court ruling? How do you do that? But I think at the end of the day, the right ruling was made. Like, really, they couldn't make another ruling. What were they going to say? But it just took the right time for this to happen. It was always in the works. It just took the right time for it to happen, the right people in place for it to occur. So we have that now. We should be happy. And I think with that, I've ranted enough about this. Nobody's probably going to watch this video. I'd love if a few people watched it. I'm going to upload it. It'll probably take all night to upload on Rumble. Anyway, my name is David Hale. I live in Arizona. I'm just, your average dude. I'm out here. I'm an electrician. I do my thing. I have my thoughts. And I'm just going to start posting some videos and see if anybody starts watching them, because I'm kind of a ham. and I think I have a great point of view, and I think I have some things to offer to people that they haven't heard before. So if you like what you see, give me a thumbs up. If you don't, give me a thumbs down, man. I can take criticism too. This is like my second video on Rumble. My first one was a couple of years ago. All right, folks, have a good night. Let me know your thoughts. I could go into this more, but I think that's it. I think I'm done. I'll maybe talk about it a little more if I get questions. All right, that's it. Have a good night. Bye.